So let's talk about debt for a second. But I'm not talking about money. I'm talking about something way bigger, a carbon debt. Turns out every single ton of CO2 we've ever pumped out is still hanging around up there. And today, we're going to take a hard look at the bill.
All right, so this brings up a huge question, right? We're always hearing about these incredible new technologies that are supposed to fix everything. So you got to wonder, can we just invent our way out of this problem? Can we build some kind of giant vacuum cleaner for the sky and just suck up our past mistakes? Well, let's dig in and see.
First things first, to really get a handle on this, we need to understand the sheer scale of the problem. So, let's look at the numbers. What exactly is our carbon debt?
Okay, get ready for this. The grand total is 1,900 gigatons. That's how much CO2 humanity has pumped into the atmosphere, all told. And just so we're clear, 1 gigaton, that's a billion tons. It's a number so big it's honestly hard to even wrap your head around. But that's it. That's the weight of our entire industrial history, literally hanging over us.
Now here's the kicker. You'd think this debt was built up, slowly and steadily over centuries of the Industrial Revolution. But that's not what the data shows. Not at all. Almost half of it, 45% of all the CO2 we've ever emitted, was dumped into the atmosphere in just the last 25 years or so. The pace is just staggering.
So what does putting 1,900 gigatons of a gas into the air actually do? Well, it changes the air itself. Before the industrial age, CO2 levels were pretty stable, right around 280 parts per million. Today, we're looking at over 423. That's not a small change. We have literally changed the chemical makeup of the air we all breathe.
Okay, so the debt is massive. The problem is crystal clear. Now let's talk about the solution, or at least the potential hero of this story, the cleanup technology. The big idea here is something called direct air capture, or DAC for short. And honestly, the concept is pretty cool. Just picture these giant facilities that are basically chemical sponges for the atmosphere. Huge fans pull in regular air, and then it passes over these special materials that are designed to grab only the CO2 molecules. Then you use some heat to release the CO2, you purify it, and you can stick it underground permanently. It's literally an attempt to unscramble the egg.
So it sounds like something straight out of sci-fi. And guess what? It actually works. But, and this is a huge but, every technology has a cost. And for DAC, that cost is an absolutely mind-boggling amount of energy. This is where the story takes a really sharp turn. Let's look at the energy bill.
So, to make this a little easier to digest, let's forget about the whole 1,900 gigatons for a second. Let's just focus on one. What's the energy cost to pull just one single gigaton of CO2 back out of the sky?
The answer, 700 terawatt hours. Now, I don't know about you, but that number doesn't mean much to me on its own. A terawatt hour is a trillion watt hours, which, okay, still doesn't really help. So what does that actually look like in the real world?
Well, here's the perspective you need. That 700 terawatt hours, that's about 17% of the entire annual electricity production of the United States. Let that sink in. Nearly 1/5 of all the power the U.S. generates in a whole year. Just remove 1 gigaton of CO2. 1 out of 1,900.
Okay, so we know the absolutely insane cost for just 1 gigaton. So now you have to ask, what's the final bill? What would it take to remove all 1,900 gigatons and actually reset the clock?
Here it is, 1,330,000 terawatt hours. I mean, the math is simple, you just multiply, but the number, it's almost beyond comprehension. We're talking about a civilization-scale amount of energy. It's way more than all of humanity currently produces. The price tag for cleaning up the past is, well, it's out of this world.
So when you put all of this together, you take the massive scale of the carbon debt and you stack it up against the staggering energy bill to pay it back, you're left with a pretty clear, pretty unavoidable conclusion.
And it really boils down to two very different paths, right? You've got path A, which is just don't emit a ton of CO2 in the first place. And then you have path B, go ahead and emit it, and just assume we'll figure out how to clean it up later. But as we've just seen, path B comes with that gigantic energy bill. It's basically the difference between not spilling something on the carpet versus trying to clean it up later with a super expensive, energy-guzzling machine.
Which leads us to the crucial takeaway, and this comes straight from the source material.
It's not an opinion, it's just simple economics. It is way, way more economical to stop emitting CO2 now than to try and remove it later. Now, that doesn't mean tech like DAC is useless. Of course not. It'll probably be super important for cleaning up emissions from things that are really, really hard to decarbonize. But for the vast majority of our emissions, the math just doesn't lie.
So, at the end of the day, the technology to literally clean our atmosphere, it exists. But the bill is one that our civilization probably can't pay. And that leaves us with one last really big question to think about. If cleaning up our past mistakes is this impossibly expensive, how on earth can we afford to keep making them today?